All right, good morning, everybody. It's Miss Luchansky, your favorite English teacher, coming in hot with some Thanatopsis. Woo woo! I know you're so excited, so let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so Thanatopsis is a poem by William Cullen Bryant. Now, William Cullen Bryant was actually a pretty unique guy. Let's jump in. So, William Cullen Bryant was an avid reader of poetry. Okay, he was often inspired by a book called Lyrical Ballads that was published in 1798 by great English poets William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. This volume of poetry focused on the expression and much of the philosophy of the Romantic period that we've been studying. So, this was a powerful source of inspiration for other poets in addition to William Cullen Bryant. And so he was definitely inspired by the poems that were in this book, and he kind of became the country boy turned poet as a result of it. He also was a deist, and deists believed that divinity could be found in nature. Okay, so he definitely believed in a communication with the spiritual world through nature. He was considered a prodigy by many. Okay, so he grew up in Western Massachusetts. He was tutored for a career as a lawyer, but then he published Thanatopsis and he basically ditched being a lawyer and became a writer. So by the age of 9, he was already writing poetry and had earned his reputation as a prodigy. By the end of his life, he was considered a millionaire. All right, that's definitely unique for our time period because not many people in our time period grow up and become millionaires, but definitely during the late 1700s and early to mid 1800s, he was racking up some bank. Okay. He was also an outspoken liberal for the time period. He supported social reform, free speech, and the abolition of slavery. Okay, so it kind of seems that William Cullen Bryant would fit in our time period well. However, it's interesting to me that he was a prodigy and a late life millionaire. It's definitely unheard of during the time period. Also, he wrote Thanatopsis when he was only 16. So he started writing poetry at age 9, but published Thanatopsis when he was only 16. So that's something that I kind of want you to consider as you read the poem. Because you guys are so similar in age to the man, I think that it speaks volumes to kind of put yourself on the same playing field and think, wow, somebody my age or a little bit younger or a little bit older than me wrote this poem. Wow. Let me go make another TikTok. Anyways, all right, so what does Thanatopsis actually mean? Thanatopsis is a combination of two Greek words, thanatos, meaning death, and opsis or opsis, meaning sight. So therefore, the translated title could be, drumroll, that's right, sight on death, meditation on death. So the poem is going to be about death. Happy Wednesday, everybody. All right, so while you're reading the poem, some things that I want you to consider is the theme. Okay, obviously, poems deliver a message, and that message is important, or else why would the poet write the poem? To express themselves, but also to relate to mankind. So, really think, what is Bryant saying about what happens to us after we die? This has been a question that's been posed for centuries, and we still even ponder this question today. So it's something that is still relevant to today, and I'm going to be curious to see your interpretation of the poem and how you think in relation to Bryant's overall message of what happens to us after we die. Also, of course, please consider nature. So important. You cannot forget his main muse. So, what does Bryant suggest about the role of nature in the life of a human? And also, does that role of nature change depending on one's own relationship with nature? Does somebody who doesn't even appreciate nature, will they have the same reactions to death as the person who is comforted by nature? Definitely some interesting things to think about. Also, I want to point out to you when you're reading the poem, nature becomes a narrator. That is one of the most confusing things about the poem. The very first stanza is an ambiguous third person human narrator, okay? And then around line 16 and 17 of the poem, the narrator asks us to listen to nature's teachings and quote, all around earth and her waters in the depths of air comes a still voice. So the second stanza begins nature's narration, meaning that nature is the one who is speaking in the poem rather than William Cullen Bryant or just an objective narrator. Okay, so please remember that nature is a narrator in the poem. Also, consider these ideas after you've read the poem. Predestination. So, how would our Puritan friends feel about Bryant's ideas on death? Think Jonathan Edwards, Mr. Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God sermon that we listened to. Think about Reverend Paris, okay? Think about everything that went on through the crucible and how these people who believed in predestination might feel about Bryant's poem and what happens after we die. Also, think about the tone of the poem. What is the tone that Bryant uses? Does he use emotional language? Is he insulting the audience? Is he using angry language? Pay attention to the word choice, the diction that he makes in the poem. Also, think about what he's ultimately suggesting on how we should approach death and the end of our life. Because I feel like so many people fear death today, rightfully so. It's scary because it's an unknown. However, please think about what Bryant is suggesting and how we should approach the ultimate end of days. And how do you feel about that? Okay. If you have any questions or comments, chat me up on Schoology or via email. I would love to hear your reactions to the poem. There are definitely some things that might confuse you about the poem, but overall the message rings clear. You guys are going to be working through a TP-cast analysis of the poem, so I think that afterwards your understanding of the poem will be a little bit more clear. So again, if you've got any comments or questions, hit me up on Schoology, hit me up via email. I cannot wait to hear your reactions and start seeing the work that you complete. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.